Some commanders are just so good in Rise of Kingdoms that after you max the first skill, you should just start using them right away because they're better than other options that you might have in your lineup. So in this video, I'm going to tell you the 6 commanders that are great long-term investments in the game where you can start using them after you max the first skill. And this is a video I wanted to make because not only have you been asking about it in my live streams, but also the last time I made a video on this topic, it is, I think, the most popular video on 5-1-1-1 commanders, and a lot has changed since that video has released. But before I begin, I want to tell you about a game I'm really enjoying a lot, and it actually has no commanders at all. I was not expecting that I would enjoy playing War and Order, the sponsor of this video, as much as I am. Let me tell you about it. This is War and Order, a city building and collection war game where you're going head to head against a bunch of other people, and there's no commanders in this game. Instead, you have your lord. You can change what your lord looks like. Of course, I'm going with the orc over here. And instead of having commander talents like you do in Rise of Kingdoms, you've got lord skills, and your lord skills determine exactly how strong you are in either fighting other players or building up your economy, depending on what you need to do. There's still equipment, as you can see, and I'm definitely enjoying building out my lord in this game because with every single army I send on the field, my lord's stats go with them into battle. We actually have a team that started in a brand new realm just about 2 weeks ago, and the chaos and fun is really amazing. If you want to come and play with us, we'd love to have you here. We've got 3 alliances in the top ranks by power, number 2, number 4, and number 6. And we got plenty of room for new players, so join us in the Smash Squad. Link will be in the description to come download and play with our team. We're having a very fun time, and thank you again to War and Order for sponsoring this video. Let's get right into some of the best commanders, the top 6. And I have to tell you, I'm going to break this up into 2 different groups. One is everything before the Season of Conquest. That's the start of the game, KVK 1, 2, and 3. And then everything after Season of Conquest, because obviously you have a lot more options. And I'm only going to recommend to you commanders that are actually amazing long-term investments, which is why Richard I is not on my list, but he is worth mentioning because he actually is very usable at 5-1-1-1. Okay, he's actually insanely good, but I wouldn't recommend that you invest in him in the long term. If you wanted to start with him and make him, again, like maybe maxing the first 2 skills because you really want to start the game a little bit stronger at the cost of your late game, you could do this. Not a choice I would make unless I was spending, but you could do it. And I also want to mention, by the way, that a commander you probably should not go invest in is a gold key commander. And even though you could start using them pretty early on, like if you got El Cid really early in the game and it's like 5-1-1-1, you could use it. And if you're new to the game, you may be wondering, what makes you say that, Chisgule? The thing that makes a 5-1-1-1 commander good is the fact that their skills all work, first of all. Typically, there's 4 of them that apply, or the base levels of their skills are just so good that even with 1 point in it, you're getting a lot of value, like a shocking amount of value, okay? So El Cid and Richard I, those are commanders that in the very start of the game, I mean, I have to tell you about them, but they're not on my list because they're not good long-term investments. The one commander, by the way, that is a great long-term investment before Season of Conquest that you can start to use with only 1 skill maxed is, of course, Alexander the Great. I mean, you had to know this was who it was going to be, right? He's so good. With only the first skill maxed, you're going to get the 1,200 shielding factor on himself, an extra shield that goes to a nearby unit for 600 shielding factor. That's pretty cool, but you also get 800 instant proc damage and a healing effect reduction. Also, base level of this skill is 10% march speed, 10% attack, okay. And then the base level of this skill is 20% attack, and when you have a shield, it switches to 10% defense. It's a lot of stats. It's a decent amount of march speed. It's decent shielding, utility, and damage. Once you get him to 5-1-1-1, obviously you want more skills on him, but I think you're cleared for takeoff, man. You could start to use him if you really wanted. This is the one and only commander before the Season of Conquest that I think is a good long-term investment and is great in the Season of Conquest. So I'm a very big advocate of these long-term investments. And here is the talent build that I would recommend that you use for the open field. You could theoretically go with a little bit less aggression and remove fight to the death. But let me tell you a secret. This is the best talent for sure. So if you are relatively weak compared to everyone else that you're playing against, if your power is relatively low compared to the power of other players around you, you might consider shaving off fight to the death for a little bit of march speed. But otherwise, this talent build, I can feel very confident recommending it to you. This means, by the way, that 5 of my 6 recommended commanders for 5-1-1-1 is good enough are all in the Season of Conquest. Again, these are not end states. I don't want anybody confused. They're starting points where it's like, oh, if I have another great commander to pair with, I can get started right away. The first commander I want to tell you about is going to be William. Now, William is good primarily because of his 4th skill. This is going to make it so that all your nearby allies, well, 5 nearby allies, I guess I should say, get 10% defense and 50 rage per second if you can get your active skill to hit the target. Well, what does the active skill do? 1,500 damage factor, and it's area of effect damage, so you can hit multiple targets, even though it's a little rectangle. That's still good. And it reduces their march speed by 30%, and it removes all bonus skill damage effects. So you know how pretty much everyone on the face of the earth is using a commander like Yisong, and how on Yisong's 4th skill, he's boosting skill damage, or how Sun Tzu boosts skill damage? Yeah, William makes those buffs nullified, which is why he's so good. So not only is his active skill good, area of effect damage, all his other skills at their base level are actually pretty good too. I mean, the base level of this 2nd skill gives you 10% attack. Don't sit at a 5-1-1-1 for a long time with this commander, but you could start to use him. I think in a lot of ways, his viability as an addition to your lineup will depend on what commander you were replacing from your lineup to put him in, and also how many marches are you personally bringing to the field. If you're bringing 5 marches, then you get the full benefit of his skill over here that gives you more rage and defense, and then he becomes a lot more valuable. The 4th best commander to use as a 5-1-1-1, not an end state, but a starting point, is XY. And I was kind of surprised when I was looking through and seeing which commanders would I recommend, but 1,700 damage factor, hitting 3 targets and reducing their defense by 30% for 3 seconds is actually really good. The 2nd skill, 1 point, is giving you another 20% attack and a small amount of march speed. Fine. The 4th skill, I mean, it's reducing your rage requirement by 10, and also giving you a little bit of stacking damage. Doesn't matter. As a starting point, if you were urgently in the market for a new Cav commander, you could put in XY at 5-1-1-1. And as long as you didn't have other commanders in your lineup also doing active skill defense reduction, I guess we're just talking about like Ramses. As long as you weren't already using Ramses, then you're going to get the full effect of that defense reduction. Oh, and I guess Ethelfled, right? His debuff is not going to overlap with Ethelfled's for what it's worth. In fact, his might overwrite Ethelfled's, which is not the worst. You'll lose a little bit of value from your Ethelfled. And what I'm really describing here is the fact that active skills don't stack with each other when we look at their debuffs. So the 30% defense reduction over here is probably not going to stack with Ethelfled's 30% defense reduction. So keep that in mind. If you're using Ethelfled, your mileage will vary, but don't worry, I've got a few other commanders that are actually really insane. If you were looking for talents on XY, this is a build I can highly recommend. I personally use this. The other variation that I have seen goes for Buckler Shield and sacrifices on Feral Nature. I find that for commanders that have a rage reduction on their active skill, and I neglected to mention that XY does have a lower rage requirement on his active skill by 100. This is so strong. For these sorts of commanders, firing off your active skill faster, even if it comes at a great cost, is usually worth that cost. And so Feral Nature does a lot for you. Plus, if you can get ahead of some of your other marches for when the active skill is used, you can get this defense reduction applied before all your other marches are doing their active skills, which means your target is just going to take a lot of damage. The next one on the list where you don't have to worry so much about effect stacking is Guan Yu. I've already talked extensively in other videos how 5-1-XX is really where you want to be. But as a starting point, if you just got to the Season of Conquest and you were like, man, I can go max new prime Scipio, and can I pair with Guan Yu? The answer is yes. As long as you can max the first skill, you can start there with the intention of immediately putting more skills in to try to get more points into the third and the fourth skill. That will be my recommendation to you. The reason Guan Yu is so good is 2,000 damage factor. Hitting 3 targets is just a lot of damage. Like, I thought XY's damage was really good. This is more. And it's a silence effect, which is arguably more powerful. Very strong effect. You know, the third skill gives you 10% more attack. A little bit of other stuff too, but it's not terribly relevant. The fourth skill is giving you some extra damage factor. Depending on how many targets you hit, you can get some extra damage factor on top of that, which is nice. He's a great commander. And honestly, 5-1-1-1, start using him, and you put more sculptures into him pretty quickly, but you feel pretty good about that investment. Here's the open field talent build for Guan Yu that I personally have been using and have used extensively. I use Leo as my secondary commander, so I invest very heavily in the march speed. That does come at a fairly large cost. There are a number of other viable Guan Yu builds, such as the strong clarity build, making a sacrifice of stats in order to get a little bit of extra bonus skill damage. Plus, you get some march speed along the way, which is pretty nice. This is a canyon build that works pretty well also, based off the fact that you don't need march speed when you're in canyon. But some people, if you have a very high march speed secondary, go for this really punchy rage-generating build to try to silence the enemy before they have a chance to fire off their active skills, which can be very powerful if you can generate a lot of rage, and Feral Nature will help you do that. The number 2 best commander, and I think you must know where I'm going with this, right? Is going to be Nevsky, 5-1-1-1. Now, Nevsky and Scipio are in the category of what I am calling mythic tier commanders. It's my designation. Maybe I should be calling them prime commanders. That's what the little P stands for next to Scipio over here. But that's because I think Scipio has another version of himself already in the game, which is how he got the prime designation. So we'll go with mythic tier here. Why am I so just outrageously hyped about Nevsky? Well, you max the first skill, and we're talking about 2,300 damage factor. Plus, against surrounded targets, you're going to put a 45% defense reduction on the target. I mean, that's got to get your attention, but the reason he's so insane is that the next skill gives you 10% attack and 10% health and 4% march speed. Okay. I mean, that's amazing. I get that the health is conditional based on your being outside of Alliance territory, but still amazing. And then the next skill gives you 10% defense and it gives you 3% of sort of damage advantage, if you will, when you're against a swarm target. I'm oversimplifying to speed up the video. And then you get a little bit of extra skill damage boost as well at 5-1-1-1. Don't stop there. This is one of the best commanders to be investing in the game right now. But use him. I think he's amazing. Honestly. Just the power level on this commander is through the roof. And if you're looking for talents for Nevsky, these are the ones that I personally use. This is debatable if you want Feral Nature, but I am trying to fire off my active skills ahead of my enemy, because when I use him as primary, I use William as my secondary. And ideally, I can get that skill damage boost debuff from William applied before their secondary commander does an active skill. Maybe, right? Generating extra rage from Feral Nature is good for those sorts of moves. This, of course, brings us to the best commander that you can start using at 5-1-1-1. And he's about to arrive in the game at the time of this recording. And that is Scipio Africanus Prime version. This dude, I mean, let's just look at the skills, okay? Like, you get 2,000 damage factor and reduce the health of 3 targets by 30% for 3 seconds. The power level here is just insane. But the next skill gives you 20% attack and a little bit of march speed. Okay, 20% of attack for no extra skill points in it is amazing. Oh, and the next skill gives you 10% health and 250 damage factor per second for 3 seconds. Triggers, when you're normal attacking stuff, okay. And, by the way, chance to reduce your skill damage. And when you do take skill damage to fire off a shield, that's 750 shielding factor total. This is a 5-1-1-1 commander. That's just dumb. You just need to invest in Scipio. No excuses. The real question is, get a look at the commander that you're replacing from your lineup, and then you can decide. If you're making a new infantry march and you just want to get going, Scipio Africanus and Sun Tzu, you probably have Sun Tzu available to use, right? Like, it's actually surprising how low the barrier to entry is for using some of these newest commanders that I call mythic tier because of their power level just being so insane. And I made, of course, a dedicated video all about Scipio. The card will be up in the top if you want to check that out. And if you aren't planning for Scipio, you really should go watch that video once this video concludes. But I'll just show you for talent builds here. Constantine has the same talent tree as the infantry and support tree. There's really 2 open field builds I want to try. One is an infantry tree focused build, getting a little bit of extra march speed and stats. The other is a skill damage taken reduction build, which could be really good because Scipio is also already giving you a fair amount of skill damage taken reduction. And area of effect skill damage is kind of the meta right now. So this is a build I would recommend that you use, and I only have 2 out of 3 points in Rejuvenate very intentionally. This is because of the way that rage capping works in the game. You can only get 220 rage in any single turn. So with 2 points in here, that's 100 rage. Plus, if you're doing normal attacks onto a target already and some things are hitting you, I mean, you're gonna cap out on rage or be close enough to it that you can get away with the 2 points here, and that's good enough. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comments on my list of the top 6 commanders that you should start using potentially at 5-1-1-1 because they're that good. Alexander the Great, William, XY, Guan Yu, Nevsky, Scipio. Those commanders are insane starting points. Now, if you had a few more sculptures to invest, and I hope that you do, then there are some commanders that actually can be really gangbuster at 5-5-1-1. Now, of course, all the commanders that were good with only the first skill maxed will be good with more skills maxed. But if you want to see a detailed video telling you all about the best commanders you can use with the 200 sculptures I think it takes to max the first 2 skills, check out the video I made just the other day. Very popular. Card will be up in the top telling you all about those great commander investments. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom, and subscribe if you got some value from this video or learned something new.